I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
So President Trump responded to NATO countries rejecting his request to help secure the Strait of Hormuz. This despite our allies relying more on the key energy corridor, where about 20% of the world's oil traffic flows. Here to discuss, Fox News political analyst Guy Benson. This is interesting, Guy. Good morning to you. The president went over to Europe. He's talked about rebuilding NATO, getting people to the right percentage. And it looks like, with all the talk about Greenland, they have proven the president right, that they're not going to stand with us in these moments.
Yeah, I think he's frustrated for a number of reasons. And I think what you'd hear from some of the Europeans is, look, this was a decision that was made by the president. It's his policy. And because of this choice, it should happen on our dime, and they're not prepared to help. That'd be what they would say, at least publicly. I think you can't escape the reality as well, though, Lawrence. If you think about their internal politics in a lot of these countries, especially left-leaning or left-wing governments, they don't want to be seen by their base as helping Donald Trump on almost anything, let alone something like this. And in a lot of these countries, there is a growing Muslim population where there are sectarian politics that are increasingly driving decisions that are being made about not offending that group of people on a whole host of fronts. I think that is inescapably part of the calculus here, which is not necessarily a great sign moving forward, but I think it is explanatory in this case. But,
Guy, that's also part of the larger point as well. We talk about the radicalization that's happening in a lot of these countries, and they're inspired, a lot of the propaganda, a lot of the resources, by Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror.
Right. And the question is, do you want to appease a portion of that population by making it seem like, oh, well, we had nothing to do with this, don't worry? Is that going to actually satisfy the true violent radicals who attack those societies anyway? That is an interesting decision, I think, for some of these leaders to have made. And to your point leading into this, Lawrence, the Strait is actually vital when it comes to the energy needs of a lot of these other countries, more so than it is for us. So I think a lot of the heavy lifting has been done by the United States and, of course, by the Israelis. The Arab partners and neighbors, they're very much on board with this effort. You get some rhetorical support from some of the European countries. But when push comes to shove, if we need certain support and help, having done a lot of the tough work already, I think that's the point that President Trump is making, and therefore sort of questioning the alliance overall, saying, okay, we need you a little bit here. You got nothing for us? Okay, duly noted. That's something that I think that is pressure that he's building on some of our allies, and I don't think that he has an unfair point.
So, Guy, with the last 30 seconds I have with you, this is a live look at the map right here of all the defense spending when it comes to NATO, how many of these, what these countries are giving to NATO. When you look at the map here in the chart, we can afford for them not to show up for us. But it doesn't look like they can afford for us not to show up for them, right?
Yeah, and that's part of the really tough message that President Trump has sent them now, last term and again currently in this term. And a lot of them have taken it to heart. You've seen that number increase across a lot of Europe. And of course, they've got their issue with Russia's war against Ukraine. That's fair. It's good that there's been some improvement there. But I think Trump's looking for more of a commitment, not a full, like, you're all in with us on this, just a little bit of help. And it's been like extracting teeth in some cases, which I know has been a source, has been irksome to the president, to put it mildly.
To President Zelensky's credit, though, they have been helping us with the drone technology, which was smart on his part. We greatly appreciate that. Thanks, Guy.
You bet.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.